10 child stars who vanished from Hollywood then and now. They were the faces we adored on our television screens and movie theaters. Their smiles graced magazine covers and their names topped marquees across America. But then suddenly they were gone. Child stars who once had the world at their feet. Household names from Hollywood's golden era. What happened to these beloved young talents when the cameras stopped rolling? Some of their stories will break your heart, while others might just restore your faith in humanity. Now, let's dive into these fascinating stories one by one, starting with some of the most beloved child performers from the 1930s through the 1970s. 1. Bobby Driscoll. Bobby Driscoll wasn't just any child actor. He was Disney's first contracted child star, the voice of Peter Pan and the face of Treasure Island. With his Academy Juvenile Award at just 12 years old for his performance in The Window and So Dear to My Heart, his future seemed limitless. But puberty hit Bobby hard. His cherubic face, once his greatest asset, began changing. Acne scarred his skin and his features matured. Walt Disney himself, who had once treated Bobby like a son, terminated his contract abruptly in 1953, just 3 years after he had starred in the studio's live-action hit Treasure Island. Industry insiders reported that Disney executives claimed Bobby had become difficult to work with, but the reality was far crueler. He simply no longer fit the image they wanted. Dropped by Disney and labeled washed up at 16, Bobby tumbled into a devastating spiral of drug addiction and petty crime. His parents, unsure how to handle his growing problems, sent him to a rehabilitation center, but it did little good. By his early 20s, he was deep into heroin addiction, arrested multiple times, and completely estranged from the industry that had once celebrated him. The final chapter of Bobby's life reads like a Greek tragedy. In 1968, children playing in an abandoned tenement building in New York City discovered the body of a man. With no identification, he was buried in an unmarked pauper's grave on Hart Island. Almost 2 years later, his mother, having lost contact with her son, requested the NYPD reopen their investigation into his disappearance. Fingerprint records confirmed the heartbreaking truth. The unclaimed body was Bobby Driscoll, dead at 31 from heart failure caused by long-term drug use. The boy who once flew as Peter Pan ended his days alone, forgotten, and unrecognized. 2. Margaret O'Brien. Unlike Bobby's tragic tale, Margaret O'Brien's story takes a more hopeful turn. As a child, she captivated audiences with her emotional depth in films like Meet Me in St. Louis opposite Judy Garland. Her performance as Tootie Smith earned her a special Academy Juvenile Award, and her ability to cry on cue made her one of MGM's most valuable child assets. By the early 1950s, however, Margaret's career had slowed considerably. The transition from adorable child to teenager proved challenging, and roles became scarce. Rather than chasing diminishing opportunities, Margaret made a conscious choice to step away from Hollywood's spotlight. She redirected her energies toward education and a private life. She married and focused on family, making occasional appearances in television and theater, but never attempting to recapture her former glory. Today, Margaret O'Brien lives a quiet life in California. She managed her finances well and remains one of the few living links to Hollywood's golden age, occasionally appearing at film festivals where fans are delighted to see her warm smile still intact. 3. Claude Jarman Jr. When The Yearling premiered in 1946, audiences were mesmerized by the natural performance of 12-year-old Claude Jarman Jr. His portrayal earned him an Academy Juvenile Award. Yet by the early 1950s, his face vanished from movie screens. Unlike many child stars pushed out of the industry, Claude chose to leave voluntarily. He returned to Tennessee to finish school, attended Vanderbilt University, served in the Navy, and later became the executive director of the San Francisco International Film Festival. Today, he lives a fulfilling life, remembered for a brief but meaningful contribution to cinema. 4. Deanna Durbin. Few child stars achieved the level of international fame Deanna Durbin enjoyed in the late 1930s and early 1940s. Her soprano voice and wholesome image made her one of Universal Studios' most profitable stars. Yet at the absolute peak of her career, she made a shocking decision. At just 27, she retired completely, walked away from enormous wealth, and vanished from public life. She moved to France, married producer Charles David, and refused nearly all interviews for the rest of her life. Deanna lived quietly until her death in 2013, steadfast in her belief that fame was not worth the loss of privacy. 5. Brandon DeWilde. With his blonde hair and expressive blue eyes, Brandon DeWilde captured hearts in Shane. His performance earned him an Academy Award nomination at just 11. Unlike many child actors, he successfully transitioned into teenage and adult roles. Tragically, in 1972, he died in a car accident at age 30. His promising career was cut short just as he was entering his prime. 6. Shirley Temple. Shirley Temple was not just a child actor. She was a cultural phenomenon whose impact reached far beyond Hollywood's studio lot. Born in 1928, she began acting at the tender age of 3, and by the mid-1930s, she had become America's favorite child star. During the Great Depression, Shirley Temple's bouncing curls, dimples, and radiant smile were a beacon of hope for a country struggling with poverty, unemployment, and uncertainty. She starred in a series of musical films, such as Bright Eyes, Curly Top, and Heidi, which were so wildly popular that her movies became box office hits and her performances were credited with lifting public morale. Beyond her films, Shirley's likeness was everywhere, from dolls and clothing lines to school supplies and lunchboxes, cementing her status as a household name. However, Hollywood's love for Shirley had a built-in expiration date. As she entered adolescence, her box office draw waned. Studios, focused on the perpetual cute child image, were quick to dismiss her once she no longer fit that mold. While many child actors of the time struggled with depression, addiction, or failed careers due to this abrupt shift, Shirley Temple navigated this transition with foresight and resilience. She retired from acting at 22, but instead of disappearing from public life, she reinvented herself in profoundly meaningful ways. Shirley Temple Black pursued education, diplomacy, and public service. She became a prominent political figure, running for Congress and later serving as a U.S. delegate to the United Nations. She was appointed ambassador to Ghana and Czechoslovakia, roles in which she demonstrated the same poise, charm, and intelligence that had once made her the world's most famous child. In her diplomatic career, Shirley traveled the globe, navigating complex international relations, promoting human rights, and representing the United States on a global stage. Her transformation from child star to diplomat stands as one of the most remarkable career evolutions in Hollywood history. Her life also served as a model for child actors who faced the perils of early fame. Shirley Temple proved that leaving Hollywood did not equate to leaving purpose or meaning behind. She embraced new challenges with grace, intelligence, and courage, showing the world that talent could evolve, and that early fame could become a foundation for lifelong achievement. Until her passing in 2014, Shirley remained a revered figure, not only for her films but for the dignity, perseverance, and vision she brought to every chapter of her life. 7. Tommy Rettig. Tommy Rettig rose to fame as the original boy in the television series Lassie, where he played the beloved character Jeff Miller. His all-American charm, boyish smile, and natural rapport with the iconic collie captured the hearts of millions of viewers during the 1950s. For many, he was the embodiment of wholesome, rural Americana, and his face became synonymous with family entertainment in post-war America. Yet fame came with its challenges. By the time Tommy reached his early teens, he had grown uncomfortable with the intense public attention that came with his role. Unlike many child actors who clung desperately to fame or were forced out by studios, Tommy made the conscious decision to leave the show, prioritizing personal growth over professional continuity. However, the transition from child stardom to adult roles proved difficult. Casting directors struggled to see him as anything other than Jeff Miller, and opportunities gradually dried up. Refusing to succumb to Hollywood's typecasting, Tommy reinvented himself in a way few might have predicted: technology. He became a pioneering computer programmer at a time when the industry was in its infancy, applying the same discipline and focus that had once made him a reliable actor to the complex world of programming. He also authored books on computer science, helping educate a new generation in emerging technologies. Tommy's reinvention illustrates the resilience of former child stars who refused to be defined by their early fame. He moved from the center of the television spotlight to the quieter, intellectually demanding world of computing, carving out a second life entirely removed from Hollywood. By the time of his death in 1996, Tommy Rettig had lived a life defined not by nostalgia or past stardom, but by continuous growth, adaptability, and contribution in a field far removed from the cameras that first made him famous. 8. Baby Peggy, Diana Sarah Carey. Diana Sarah Carey, better known by her stage name Baby Peggy, was one of the first true child stars of Hollywood's silent era. Born in 1918, she began performing at the age of 2 and quickly became a global sensation. Between 1921 and 1924, she appeared in more than 150 short films and numerous features, earning millions and supporting her extended family at an age when most children were learning to read and write. Her trademark pageboy haircut, expressive face, and uncanny ability to mimic adult mannerisms made her a darling of audiences worldwide. Yet behind the glamour lay a grim reality. Baby Peggy's career was meticulously controlled and exploited by her father, who demanded grueling work schedules and little rest. She had no education, no normal childhood experiences, and was denied access to the fortune her labor generated. By the age of 6, her career began to crumble due to family conflicts and financial mismanagement, and her earnings vanished almost overnight through lavish spending and poor investments. Diana spent decades away from the public eye, attempting to live a normal life and recover from the emotional and financial trauma of her childhood. She legally changed her name, distancing herself from her stage persona, and took on ordinary jobs, from secretary to librarian, to make ends meet. It wasn't until her later years that Diana began to reclaim her place in Hollywood history, not as a performer, but as an author, historian, and advocate for the rights of child actors. She wrote several books detailing her experiences and worked to ensure that young performers would be protected from the exploitation she endured. She lived to the remarkable age of 101, leaving behind a legacy that transformed personal tragedy into a lifelong mission for reform and awareness. Baby Peggy's story is a testament to resilience, the power of reinvention, and the enduring influence of those who turn hardship into advocacy. 9. Scotty Beckett. Scotty Beckett, one of the original Our Gang members, was a beloved child actor whose charm and comedic timing made him a recognizable face of 1930s and 1940s cinema. He later transitioned to feature films, often playing the younger versions of major stars, and seemed poised for continued success. However, his life was marked by instability and personal tragedy. The loss of his father during his early teens sent Scotty into a downward spiral of emotional turmoil. He struggled with substance abuse, frequently clashed with the law, and developed a reputation for erratic behavior. Despite his early accomplishments, his career declined, and he found himself increasingly marginalized within the industry. In 1968, at just 38 years old, Scotty Beckett died under tragic circumstances, reportedly from a barbiturate overdose, leaving behind a cautionary tale of how early fame and lack of guidance can derail even the most talented individuals. His life starkly contrasts the joy and laughter he once brought to audiences as a child, highlighting the precarious balance between success and vulnerability in Hollywood. Freddie Bartholomew was MGM's young English heartthrob, often cast as the polite, refined, and earnest boy in literary adaptations such as David Copperfield and Little Lord Fauntleroy. With his impeccable manners, British accent, and emotional depth, Freddie became one of Hollywood's most celebrated child actors during the 1930s. He earned a considerable salary for his time, which reflected the studio's faith in his talent and charm. Yet, as with many child actors, the transition to adolescence brought challenges. Roles suitable for Freddie's maturing appearance became scarce, and the public's appetite for child prodigy stories waned. Unlike some contemporaries who succumbed to despair or addiction, Freddie reinvented himself, moving into the advertising industry. He eventually became a respected executive, applying the same discipline and creativity that had once made him a screen star to a new profession. His life underscores a critical lesson. Early fame need not define a person's entire identity. Freddie Bartholomew demonstrated the ability to evolve, finding fulfillment and purpose beyond the cameras that once captured his boyish charm. Many colleagues in the advertising world were unaware of his cinematic past, illustrating how successfully he navigated the shift from public child star to private professional. From Shirley Temple's graceful transition to diplomacy, to baby Peggy's transformation from exploited child star to powerful advocate, the stories of these young performers reveal the extraordinary highs and crushing lows of early fame. Some, like Freddie Bartholomew and Tommy Rettig, found second acts far removed from Hollywood's spotlight, proving that reinvention is possible even after the cameras stop rolling. Others, such as Scotty Beckett and Bobby Driscoll, remind us of fame's fragility and the heavy price it can exact on vulnerable lives. These 20 stories offer more than nostalgia. They provide insight into the human side of Hollywood's golden era. They illuminate the resilience, courage, and creativity of children thrust into the adult world of show business. And they underscore the importance of guidance, support, and the freedom to choose one's own path. The legacy of these performers lives on, not only in the films and shows that captured their talent, but also in the lessons their lives teach us about perseverance, reinvention, and the pursuit of meaning beyond public acclaim. As we look back on their remarkable journeys, we are reminded that while fame can be fleeting, the impact of these young stars, both on audiences and on the world they later shaped, remains enduring. Their lives encourage us to celebrate not only the moments they shone on screen, but also the courage with which they navigated the complex and often unforgiving world behind the cameras. Whether tragic, triumphant, or quietly dignified, each story is a testament to the enduring spirit of those who captured our hearts as children and forged their own paths long after the final curtain fell. The world of Hollywood may have moved on, but these stars, their legacies, and the lessons they imparted will never be forgotten.